Hand sanitizers, 5 truths versus 5 myths that you need to know in helping you keep yourself safe and your family safe during this time. So not only as the COVID virus is spreading and the sales of hand sanitizers are going through the roof, but also myths about hand sanitizers are spreading. So the first myth is that hand sanitizers are much more effective in reducing the amount of bacteria that you have on your hands and reducing the amount spreading diseases, and that is not true. It is actually washing your hands. So washing your hands is the first primary choice that you should have, and only when you cannot wash your hands with plain soap and water that you need to use their hand sanitizers. Now here's the thing about washing your hands. You have to do it correctly. So here comes the pro tip with washing our hands. So professionally, we're actually trained on how to wash our hands because we have to prevent the spread of disease, especially with me working on skin. And I'm working with people who have bacteria on their skin, who have acne on their skin, so sometimes there's pus, sometimes there's blood, there's bodily fluids. So I'm going to show you what we're taught how to do, and it's actually on the website of CDC as well as on the FDA websites. So when you're washing your hands alone is reducing the amount of disease-causing bacteria and virus that are on our hands, and that's what helps reduce it. Hand sanitizers is always the secondary option when you're in a situation that you cannot wash your hands. So one of the other myths too is that you need antibacterial soap. And I am in one of my clients' salon. If you are in the Murrieta area or the Temecula area, her salon is called Ivy Rue, and I will go ahead and put a link in there so you can check her out, and she does hair. So she actually has a nice hand soap here, and as you can see clearly it's not antibacterial, but that is not what, and it doesn't kill virus anyway. So when you're washing your hands, first of all, you want it to be at least 75 degrees or 25 degrees Celsius. Above that, preferably, but not scalding hot, okay? So what I do is when I'm wearing long sleeves, I usually do it above the wrists, and when I'm wearing short sleeves, I actually wash up to my elbows. And the reason why is because, so when you're washing your hands, it is important to create, the reason why they tell you to rub vigorously is because you want to create that foam, because the foam breaks down the lipid barrier that protects the virus. So you want to get in between your fingers and around your nails, and especially those of you who have long nails, you guys are carrying bacteria all the time. So you want to scrub, literally scrub, okay, back and forth, because what that does is every time you do that, you're creating more foam that breaks down the bacteria. Then obviously, when you're rinsing, I see sometimes people in the bathroom just kind of doing this. Don't do that. You want to keep continually rubbing back and forth, right? And then make sure that the water is going down, and then turn off the water. So with this constant washing of hands, especially because we're spending significant amount of times, 20 seconds, which is the equivalent of singing happy birthday 2 times, and vigorously rubbing your hands, you start to develop dry, cracked hands, and sometimes developing atopic dermatitis. So we are actually going to be doing a video in the next segment talking about how you can deal with preventing that or reducing the amount of dry, cracked hands that you may be getting from constantly washing your hands. So the reason why I mentioned that I wash up to my elbows, especially on the days that are hot and I have short sleeves, is because when you sneeze into your elbow, and what I do too is I use door handles to open before and after every treatment. So before I enter the room, I wash my hands, but then the door is closed. So my hands are clean, so I would use my elbow to push down on the door handle to enter the room. And then the other one is every time I get in an elevator, I would use my elbows. People would look at me weird, but I mean, I understand about bacteria and the spread of disease. I before coronavirus, I would use my elbows to push the buttons. I would use my elbows to push open doors. So a lot of times I would wash my elbows if I was in a situation where my elbow was exposed and I was touching the handles and the elevator buttons and all of those with my bare skin. So that's another pro tip for those of you who do what I do. I mean, obviously you should be doing this to cut down on the spread of disease. Okay, so myth number 2 is going back to hand sanitizer. So I have 2 here. So this one here is 67% alcohol. This one here is 62%. So it has to be between 60 to 65% alcohol. And that is according to CDC and the FDA regulations on there. So if it doesn't have any, sometimes the hand sanitizer, so this is where you want to read the label, is on the sanitizer, it'll say something like, you know, for sensitive skin or non-drying hand sanitizers. A lot of times the reason why is because they don't have any alcohol in there, or they have a lot less alcohol in there, because alcohol is what reduces the amount of bacteria and viruses, but it's also very, very drying. So the myth is that if it doesn't have any in there, I'll just add my own alcohol, and that is false. Because when they are creating the formulation of the hand sanitizer, it's made to be not made with alcohol. So now when you're adding another ingredient, which now changes the product in there, the FDA tells you to not do that, because that can actually make it more ineffective. So a lot of times too, it may not have alcohol, or it may have an alternative ingredient called benzalkonium chloride, and that, according to the CDC website, is not as reliable as alcohol. But in a pinch, you could use that as well. But adding additional alcohol to your existing hand sanitizer can render it ineffective. So don't do that. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is because of such shortages of hand sanitizer that the FDA put out a temporary policy on on creating hand sanitizers that have alcohol and no alcohol or less alcohol on there, and I will put a link to that in the description below. So you have to watch what you are buying, because there are companies who normally don't even make hand sanitizers that are now stepping up and creating hand sanitizers. So if it doesn't have as much alcohol and you think, oh, I need to add more in there, it's not going to be effective. So they do have that out there for you to read, and most people don't read it, and this is why I'm making this video. So this leads me to my next myth, which is, well, there's no sanitizers around, so I can make my own hand sanitizer. So the FDA has actually put out something that says, do not do this. There's been reports coming in that they have gotten where people are making their own hand sanitizers, and 1 or 2 or both of these things are happening. And that is, 1, it's not formulated correctly, so it's not effective. Number 2 is that it's too strong, and it's actually, there's been reports that there's burn on human skin because they're not formulating it correctly. So the FDA does not have any system or regulations where they can verify the steps that you are taking in trying to create your own hand sanitizer and being able to verify that it actually works. So do not make your own hand sanitizer. And if you know someone who may be doing this, please share this video. Okay, myth number 4 is that hand sanitizers are still effective after the expiration date. And the FDA says that unless the product has been tested to be stable for at least 3 years on a shelf life, there is no verifiable way to see if it is effective as before the expiration date. So if you choose to use it because there's nothing else, obviously know going in that it may not be effective or not at all effective, because you know alcohol evaporates very quickly. So please make sure that the expiration date hasn't passed. If you're finding a hand sanitizer that is 1 year after the expiration date, it's probably not effective at all because people forget alcohol does evaporate. Okay, so here is the caveat. The caveat is the FDA has made some temporary policies for those companies who normally don't make hand sanitizers, You will see some of them, if you look at them, they don't have expiration dates, and you're saying, well, I'm just buying, they just came out today, why doesn't it not have an expiration date? That may be because the hand sanitizer product that you are using was recently made by a company who normally doesn't make them, and so the FDA has different regulations for those, and they don't have them because they are meant to be used for this current health emergency. Okay, so the final myth is I ran out of hand sanitizer. I'm just going to use my CLOROX Disinfecting Wipes. The FDA specifically tells you to not use this. This is not formulated for human skin. So don't use this on your hand or your body or your pets. So for those of you who do not know, there are 3 levels of decontamination that we are educated on. So the first level, which is the lowest level, is sanitation, and that is, like, for example, it is washing your hands, it is using hand sanitizer, it is washing your dishes by hand, because all sanitation means is that you are reducing the amount of bacteria or viruses on a particular surface, and it's usually on human tissue. So that means you're just reducing the amount. It is not taking off per se the virus and bacteria that may be on your hands. There's no way that you can destroy all bacteria and viruses on your hand without killing the tissue first. So that is the first level of sanitation. The second level is disinfection, and it was designed, disinfecting wipes are designed to be used on non-porous surfaces, and I was going to do a separate video on how to clean correctly, so if you guys want that video, please let me know in the comments. But basically what most people do is they take a disinfecting wipe and they just wipe down something, and in a pinch that works, but really the way that you're supposed to do it is you're supposed to sanitize it first. So clean off, let's say, your counter surfaces with water and soap, and then wipe it down, and then use the disinfecting wipes. But my myth number 5 was to, if you're in a pinch, to use this for your hands and your body, but you're not supposed to. So do not use this on yourself and your pets. The other thing I wanted to add is when you see disinfecting, the second level of decontamination is it's removing or lowering the level of bacteria, fungus, spores, and viruses, which on your skin, obviously you can't do that. So the highest level of decontamination is sterilization, and sterilization is basically using chemicals, gas, pressure, or temperature to eliminate almost all the bacteria, spores, virus, any disease carrying element. And the way that you can do that is, for example, if you have implements and you wash them with soap and water, and then you dry them off, if you put them in barbicide, that's disinfection. But when you put them in a medical autoclave where it heats up to a temperature of 250 or higher, that is sterilization. So when they sterilize implements for surgery, okay, they have to, that's how they do it. So it's sanitation, disinfection, and then sterilization. So if you're finding this information helpful, please give us a thumbs up. And if you know someone that you think could be better informed about this, then please go ahead and share this video. And if you haven't subscribed to our video, our channel basically focuses on skincare ingredients, correct skincare protocol, and some beauty news sprinkled in. Then please go ahead and subscribe, and of course hit that notification bell. And we will see you in the next video, which we're going to be talking about how to reduce dry, chapped hands when you're using hand sanitizer so much. Remember, makeup is an art and skincare is a science.